Hey y'all, and everyone else out there in the multiverse. Welcome back to Room 66, where every week we will be diving deep into the paranormal and listening to experiences from our guests. Today's video is from a user whose story will keep your Oculus off your head for a while and have you checking your surroundings for the rest of the night. With that being said, we hope you enjoy your stay in Room 66. It all started around Christmas time. I had a few friends over for a gift exchange just a few days after Christmas itself, when I randomly received a package delivered to my house. The package didn't have any labels on it or a sent address attached. It was completely blank. I opened the package and realized that this wasn't just some note with Grandma's handmade scarf attached that she sent every year. This was an expensive piece of gaming equipment. It was the new Oculus VR. A VR game system that's essentially a headset that you wear that puts you in a 3D world. It's a new way to surf the internet, they say. I pondered and thought maybe it was sent to the wrong address, and maybe it was a neighbor's and mistakenly placed on my porch. I remembered my buddy getting very excited and yelling, "Lucky you!" after finding out what it was. I decided I would just keep it in a box and wait a week to see if anyone came knocking looking for their present that I assumed got sent to my house by mistake. But then I remembered that there was no shipping label. Regardless, I set the package in my closet and waited to see if any owner would come by and claim it. About a month or so had gone by, and I had totally forgot about the Oculus when I was digging through my closet looking for a jacket that I had lost, when I saw a box and realized it had been way over a month and no one came by asking about the box. I set the box on my dining table and decided to give it a Google search. Within 2 minutes, it had me convinced to open the thing. I opened a drawer and grabbed a corkscrew to pop open a bottle of wine and held on the power button while the Oculus booted up. Before we go on with this story, and just thinking about this again sends chills down my spine, and even makes me look over my shoulder as I write this, but it's important to know, I live alone. I work remote from home with my French bulldog Bjorn, who likes to bark at squirrels through the window, and I'm about 5 miles away to my closest neighbor. I have very few friends and no family who will drive all the way out here once in a blue moon because the commute is so far. With that being said, let's move on. I went through the app library and decided to take the headset off to do a little bit more research on what I wanted to try. I took my headset off, and to my surprise, every drawer in my kitchen was open. I wanted to grab my gun and do a sweep around my house to make sure no one was there, but that was upstairs under my bed in my bedroom. When I stood up, I noticed Bjorn was curled up, awake, next to me in the dining room, and concluded that if somebody was in the kitchen, Bjorn would have snapped with barks. I shook it off and turned on some music for a better vibe, took a big sip of wine, and put the headset back on. I again pulled up the app library and began to explore. I got stuck on that headset for about 2 hours without taking it off. When I finally decided to take a break, I noticed my senses off. I felt as if the lights in the background were off. As I took the headset off, the lights were off like I thought. I stood up and walked over to turn the switch back on, when I noticed Bjorn standing up in the middle of the living room facing the front door. As I walked over, my heart dropped. The front door was open. I was filled with anxiety, trying to put together how long that it had been open and who opened it. I was a little bit more concerned with Bjorn, who wasn't barking his head off. The dog barks at everything new on sight, so I was a bit confused again why he wasn't reacting besides looking on guard. I flipped the lights on and ran upstairs to grab my gun. Ran back downstairs for my cell phone and called the police. I knew it would take about an hour for them to show up due to the one-way curvy roads. I sat on the kitchen floor with Bjorn on my side with my gun drawn in front of me, ready to shoot anything that walks in my path until I heard sirens arrive. I was completely quiet until Bjorn started barking at the ceiling. That's when I heard slow, moving footsteps above me. It was in the guest bedroom, walking at the slowest pace, back and forth, back and forth. My heart sank, and I was filled with more anxiety than I had ever experienced in my life, to the point where I felt like I was going to freeze up in fear right then and there. I couldn't move, and at the same time, Bjorn jolted for the stairs to chase whatever was walking upstairs. After he ran up, it got quiet. Strangely quiet. No barking and no footsteps. This sent me into a panic even more. My beloved dog. Was he hurt? Why was there complete silence? I feared for my life, weighing my odds and searching for Bjorn upstairs. I ran for the front door. I'm running towards my front gate to meet the police at the street when I see the police emergency lights pull in. I informed them that someone was in my house upstairs. They kept me outside, called in backup, drew their weapons, and made their way inside my house. About 10 minutes later, Bjorn ran from the front door towards me, followed by the officers. We checked every room and looked behind every door. That house is cleared, ma'am. I explained to them again the situation and what I heard. They suggested maybe someone did come in, but I probably scared them off if they somehow seen the pistol, or probably Bjorn's barking scared them off. I was completely baffled, because as loud as Bjorn's barks can be, he's not that intimidating, and there's no way that the person could have known I had a gun on me. The officers did another sweep just to make me feel safe. I locked up all my windows with them and thanked them for their time. I locked my doors and made sure to double check the bolt lock before going to bed that night. I woke up the next morning and checked out the house. All the doors were still locked and the windows are all shut. I finished my work for the day and decided to pop open another bottle of wine and wind down and give the Oculus another try. I downloaded another app and spent a few hours playing and experimenting with these 3D worlds, till I got a jolt up my spine that sent me flying out of my chair. Someone had put their hand on my shoulder. When I flew off the chair and practically threw the Oculus at the couch, no one was around, and Bjorn was once again just sitting next to me, looking at me like I'm the weird one. I did a perimeter check around the house and went out back to see if I could see anything that could confirm someone was in my house. As I walked back in, I can see what looks like a white piece of paper on my kitchen counter, which wasn't there before because I had just cleaned up some spilt wine in that area. As I got closer, I noticed it wasn't just a piece of paper, but a photo. One of those cameras where you take a picture and the photo prints out. I was shook. It was a picture of me in the kitchen, with the Oculus on, and written under the picture was a note that said, "Ready?" I couldn't comprehend it. Ready for what? I went to grab the phone to dial 911 again, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps walking from above me, upstairs. Pacing and pacing. Bjorn started to go wild again with barking. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and left the phone off the hook so they could trace the call and locate me, or even at the least, hear my screams if I was about to be attacked, so they could send help. The footsteps were again in my guest bedroom. I knew my master bedroom was to my right, and my gun was under my pillow from the night before. I made a race for it to my bedroom. I ran upstairs and could see all my doors upstairs were shut. The footsteps stopped, and as I put my hand on my bedroom door and twisted the knob, I heard a door behind me blast open, and footsteps started running towards me. As I ran in and turned around to slam the door, I see a person in all black with a mask, and before I could react, he took a slice at my arm with what looked like to be some type of man-made knife, while I shut the door. He got me, and he got me good. I was bleeding uncontrollably. I was screaming for them to stop and leave me alone. They were banging, trying to kick down the door, over and over. The sound frightened me. With each knock, I thought they were going to get in, and that's when I remembered why I went in there in the first place. My gun. I grabbed my gun from under my pillow, aimed at the door being banged on, and pulled the trigger like I had been taught. Click. Pulled it again. Click. They took the bullets out, I thought to myself. After that, I could hear the banging stop and giggling start to happen. They were laughing as if they were enjoying torturing me. I heard the steps walk away for a second and run back towards the door. Bang! Now he was running into the door, throwing his whole body force. I could hear the wood of the door cracking as each body slammed into it. I knew it wouldn't hold long. I started fumbling through the closet looking for the old box of bullets that I had stashed away. After which seemed like forever, I finally found 3 of them. I chambered them into my revolver and aimed them at the door and pulled the trigger one time. The banging stopped. I couldn't hear footsteps or Bjorn's barking anymore. After the gun went off, I decided I would go out my window onto my second-story balcony and make my way down so I could get to the street and wave down some help, or if I had to run down 5 miles to my nearest neighbor. As I slowly climbed from my window to my garage to get down, I heard 2 men talking inside. The bitch scraped me. My heart dropped. There was 2 of them. I slowly made it down the house and took off straight into the forest and got to my nearest neighbor, Maddie. She let me call the authorities. After a few hours of interviews and a search conduction, they found out that there was someone in my house, and there was someone's blood on the outside of my bedroom door. The detective said I hit them in the arm when I shot through the door, and they actually picked up one of the criminals who was being treated for a gunshot wound at a local hospital and made an arrest. A few things they found out. The day that I received that package with the Oculus, it was supposed to be hand-delivered. When they knocked on the door, they were going to bust in, tie me up with the rope they found in the hallway closet. I couldn't imagine what their intentions were with me, but it wasn't good. The detective suggested that when they saw the other people at my Christmas party, they got spooked and left the package. What I didn't know was that they found a campsite maybe about a quarter mile behind a big brush bush in my backyard, which leads into the woods, with matching rope and a tent. But what was inside that tent is what would haunt me for the rest of my life. It was pictures taped all inside of the tent of me and another woman who had reportedly gone missing. It was me in my house from before Christmas, me drinking wine, watching TV with the Oculus over my head, just completely blind to what happened. Pictures of me inside of my house was probably the scariest part. Just hundreds of pictures of women sleeping. They believed the 2 men had been living at the campsite for a few months now, just spying on me from outside. The detective kept telling me how lucky I was to get away from these evil men, and that I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that luck. I'll tell you one thing though, I don't feel very lucky. After this incident, I always keep one eye open in the shower, and I never put that damn Oculus back over my head. Now I live in the city with Bjorn, and I couldn't be happier, having all these people around. Hey y'all, and thanks for tuning in. If you want to subscribe, head over to the door below. You can find us on YouTube at Room 66. We also run Sinister Soaps. If you're interested in sinister-scented, homemade soap bars, you can check us out at sinistersoap.com. Your purchase helps support our goal of being able to travel and vlog these paranormal areas in the future, and is appreciated. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the rest of your stay at Room 66.